Hey everybody, my name is Paul Esden Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com, and welcome to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/slash BoyGreen25. We've been doing this cool series on the channel. We've gotten great feedback from the fans, and in no particular order, we are interviewing an expert from wherever the Jets free agents came from. We've done Laken Tomlinson with the San Francisco 49ers, and we've done DJ Reed Jr. from the Seattle Seahawks. And now we go to the tight end room, one of my favorite rooms now, with the latest additions for the New York Jets. And the Jets just brought somebody in. So we're going to bring somebody in. And this man's name is Adam Patrick. He covers the Minnesota Vikings for the Vikings Age and also has a phenomenal podcast as well. Let's bring him in. Good friend of mine from the past. Let's bring him back in. It's Adam Patrick. What's up, Adam?
What's up, Paul? Thanks for having me on.
Of course, and well, so we raved your pantry, taking old Tyler Conklin out for 3 years and 21 million. First off, was there a sense from the Vikings that they wanted to keep this guy and try to retain him, or was it always, kind of openly accepted that he was going to be gone somewhere else in free agency?
I think he was gone. They had a lot of cap issues this offseason, and Irv Smith Jr. is returning from injury next season. And he was the number one tight end last year before he went down for the year, and so they're expecting him to be the number one guy. And then Conklin, he played really well last year, and the Vikings knew he wasn't going to be cheap to bring back. So. Um, with their cap issues and the offer that he clearly got from the Jets, the Vikings weren't going to be able to compete with that. I think that Conklin wanted to return to the Vikings, but he understood their cap situation, and I think he said as much since the signing. Um, but yeah, I don't think he was. I don't think Tyler Conklin was a priority. Not that he's not good or anything, but I think the Vikings had have bigger fish to fry when it comes to guys like Kirk Cousins and Danielle Hunter and Adam Thielen and Harrison Smith. And like I mentioned, with Irv Smith returning, it was a little easier to part ways with Tyler Conklin. Still sad to see him go, but I'm happy he got paid because he deserves it.
Yeah, see, that's what I want to get to because since he signed, I've had Vikings fans and Vikings people that either work in the media or out there. They've reached out to me and said, "Boy, we lost a good one. You guys have a great
Yep.
one." That's been the overall sentiment. Outside of, I have a couple of trolls and salty fans that said, "Oh man, he sucks. So enjoy his crappy play." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." Thanks for that one. But besides that, it's been overwhelming and actually a lot of it not even initiated. Like I've just had Vikings people reach out to me and just say, wow, Conklin's a great dude, man. You guys are going to love him. Why is that? Why is there just that sentiment of people just reaching out of their own accord telling me this about Conklin?
I think he's just been real, I guess, human to the fan base, and you can't say that about everybody. Where, you know, he'll respond to your comment on his Instagram post or something, or a DM. So he has that fan interaction that you can't really say about a lot of people. I think that's pretty cool. And he's just been a good guy in the locker room. Never been a problem at all. His progression and development has been really good, little by little, and he got this opportunity last season to be the top guy, and he took advantage of it, and now he's getting paid. And I mean, you can tell on his way out, there's no hard feelings really, and it's easy to understand why when you know that he's the way he is towards fans and towards coaches. I don't think a coach has ever said a bad thing about him because I think he's just always willing to learn and do really whatever it takes. He'll block, he'll catch, he'll do whatever to help his team, and those are the kind of guys you want on your roster. So the Jets should be happy with their signing.
You mentioned the development and the progress, but when you just bare look at the numbers, people say like, "What the heck happened? Why
Yeah.
did it take so long for him to pop? Was it a thing that he came in raw and he had to develop, or was it people were just in front of him and he just had to patiently wait his turn, whatever that was going to come?"
Oh, I think it was a little bit of both. I think he was he was a former basketball player at Central
Yeah.
Michigan, and he played football as well. Um, Actually, I think he was recruited for both, and he chose to play football. So his skills were obviously going to be a little raw as football came, and so the Vikings took a chance on him, knowing his basketball background could probably help him as a tight end. But when he got to the Vikings, was when Kyle Rudolph was there, I'm sure New York fans are familiar with Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah,
He's
right.
not necessarily Jets fans, but New York fans. And he was there for a while, so he's always the number one guy. Then Irv Smith came along, and he came in there, and he was a second round pick. So Conklin's kind of just going to get shoved to the side, regardless of how well or how
Naturally,
well he
sure.
develops. Yeah. So it was a little bit of both his development and the guys in front of him, but he got that opportunity last year, and he, like I said, made the most of it, and he's getting rewarded for it. So I think that says a lot about the kind of player that he is. Like I mentioned, he'll do anything. If he has to block all game, he'll do it. If he's going to catch 6 passes a game, he'll do it. If he catches 1 pass a game, he'll do it. Like, I think he's not gonna care, as long as he gets to play on the field, and I think, like, that's probably gonna happen when he's with the Jets.
Yeah, I saw this analytic was shared among fans as soon as Tyler signed here. He had a 1.6% drop rate last year, which was third best among tight ends.
Yep.
Is there stickum out there? Was he kind of lucky? Not enough attempts? Like, what happened there? I mean, that is an impressive stat, especially for the Jets, who have been dropping passes for over a decade.
Well, I mentioned his basketball background, so he can use that his box out skills to go in the right spots and know when to jump to get balls and like that stuff in like the back of the end zone or something. And he didn't make I don't think he made a lot of one-handed catches or anything, but he didn't drop a whole lot of passes. Like I I honestly couldn't tell you one of his drops that he had. So yeah, he's very he's got, I think, Kirk Cousins one time described Kyle Rudolph as like throwing into a mattress, and I feel like you could probably just say the same thing about Tyler Conklin, because I don't remember a time that he dropped the ball. So he'll be a good security blanket for a young Zach Wilson when he's looking for someone to bail him out, maybe.
Again, make sure you guys like the video, hit subscribe down below, and make sure you catch up on all of Adam Patrick's work over there at the Viking Age as well. How good can he be? Because again, there was a lot of nothing on the stat sheet anyway as he was kind of progressing. Then there's this big pop last year. How good can he be ultimately?
Um, I think he can be. Let's say I think Pro Bowl might be his ceiling. I'm not
Wow.
gonna say
Okay.
I'm not gonna say all pro.
Hmm.
But I think he needs to be in the right offense, one that utilizes their tight ends more than others. And we know that that depends on the scheme that's being run and stuff like that. So it needs to be the right offense, and then he's got to have a good connection with the quarterback. So I think that'll be important this offseason, him and Zach Wilson connecting, see if they can meet up and have some throwing sessions. I'm sure that'll probably happen. But I would say Pro Bowl, his development has gone really well, and he's still pretty young, so and he's not very injury prone. So I think when he has those things going for him, his ceiling is, I would say, it's Pro Bowl. But overall, like, my best guess would probably be, like, he's good for, like, 40 to 50 catches a year, maybe around 600 yards and 5 or 6 touchdowns. I'm not gonna, like, say that's anything crazy if someone said that to me. So he's a solid tight end, and I think the Jets will get their money's worth with him.
If those are the stats, that may be one of the best tight end seasons the Jets have had in the 21st century. So you know what? Phenomenal. We will take that, no doubt about it. Let me ask you about this. This is something Vikings fans are texting me. He has a nickname, Gronklin. Is that
Yeah,
true? And if so,
yeah.
where did that come from? What's that about?
Oh, well, Gronk's the tight end. The
Yeah,
tight end, like, he's the ultimate that you measure up against. So Vikings fans are creative. He's got the Conklin name, so you
yeah.
mix them together, Gronk and Conklin, so you get Gronklin, and I think that's pretty much it. I don't think it's anything too complex.
Was it
Just
a hope thing though? Like, did fans say, "Oh, we want him to be the next Gronk," so they force fed the Gronklin name, or did they see some pops and go, "Wow, this guy could be the next"? I've heard Baby Gronk for other players and things of that nature. Was it a projection or something they saw? And they said, "Oh, he can be that
I think it was more just Vikings fans having fun and just making a maybe, I guess you could say, a meme out of it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I don't think anyone's thinking he's gonna be the next Gronk. He could, I guess,
Wow,
but we're not gonna
sure.
I'm not gonna sit here and say that he's gonna do that, but, yeah, I think it was just Vikings fans probably having a little more fun than anything else.
All right, let's. This is just kind of weird how this worked out. Of course, the Jets and Vikings agreed to a trade last year. We sent Chris Herndon, who, by the way, I was a diehard fan of. So I don't mean this in any funny way. I
You
thought he
guys
was going to be a star, and I kept pounding the table about it when we
Mhm,
traded him. I was kind of sad. I was alone on that train because a lot of Jet fans were done with him, and I guess we see why with what he was
mhm,
unable to do with the Vikings. And now the Jets end up getting Conklin anyway on the other side in
mhm.
free agency. What has been? I haven't heard from any Vikings fan on this or personality or anything. What was the Chris Herndon experience like?
Uh, Nothing against the guy, but it was terrible.
Ah,
Um, just it just wasn't a fit. Like, I don't think he ever found a way to make an impact on the offense. I think he had, like, less than 10 catches, last season.
oh,
Yeah, and the Vikings sent, a 4th round pick for him. That move has gone down in the Rick Spielman, rap sheet or whatever that eventually got him fired this year.
sure.
So people are a little confused by that. Like, why are you trading a 4th round pick for a guy who's maybe going to get one catch a game? I know he had a bunch of potential or whatever with the Jets, but it didn't seem like a fit from the start with the Vikings. I I wish I could tell you why. I just don't know. Sometimes that just happens where it's just not a fit.
Yeah,
And I think the Vikings saw that he had a year left on his contract, and they're like, "All right, whatever. We need." Irv Smith just went down. That trade happened a little bit after he went down, so they're like, "Okay, we need a guy who can come in and maybe, at least be a solid tight end too." And that didn't happen either. So it is what it is. The Vikings take chances. The Jets take chances. Everyone takes these chances on some
sure.
guys. I think they can get the most out of, and it just didn't work out. Like I said, nothing against the guy, but it
Yeah.
just wasn't a good fit.
Adam, I'm going to be honest. I imagine the Vikings never want to do a trade with the Jets again, but there's a name you mentioned there off the top that obviously has titillated Jet fans, and quite frankly, I'm sure NFL fans everywhere, is Danielle Hunter, the pass rusher.
Mm.
What's the situation there? Again, this is supposed to be a video only about Conklin, but I can't
Mhm.
help but be intrigued by the question of Danielle Hunter. Like, is he going to stay? Are they moving on?
Mm.
I've heard cut things, I've heard trade things. What's the truth?
I'd be very surprised if he got cut.
Okay.
But so if they're gonna get rid of him, it's gonna be a trade, which is
Mhm.
in play because a report came out the other day that the Vikings are trying to trade him. So he's on the block.
Mhm.
But what they're willing to uh, you know, take in return for him is still out there. I would think they would want at least a 1st round pick, whether it's this year or next year,
Okay.
for Daniel Hunter. He's still pretty young. When he's on the field, he's one of the best pass rushers in the league. He missed 2020 with a freak neck injury. He missed last year with a torn pectoral. Those are not, nagging injuries. Those are
Mhm.
just they're football. They happen. Okay. And before that, he was almost. I don't think he missed any games uh, with injuries. So these last few years, not the norm. I would say. So he's still worth the investment. And I think he just wants to get paid more
Mm.
because the Vikings can restructure his deal without his permission, make him get like 12 or 15 million, which he believes he is worth more. But on Sunday, I believe he has a $18 million roster bonus that kicks in. So a decision has to be made pretty quickly for the Vikings if they're going to trade him or keep him or restructure him or whatever. But he is on the block. I'm not sure what the Jets are looking to do if they're satisfied with their pass rushers. I mean, even if you are, I don't think anyone's gonna be like, oh, well, we don't want Daniel Hunter. So yeah, and what alignment do the Jets run? Do they run a 4-3?
Yes, it's a 4-3 in the
Right.
new Robert Saleh scheme over the last year and a half. Yep.
And I've heard that Danielle Hunter is okay with playing in a 3-4, which is what the Vikings are switching to, but he's
Mhm.
played in the 4-3 his entire career. So that might have something to do with his, desire to maybe get out. And they did fire his favorite position coach, Andre Patterson, who is now with the New York Giants. So I'd
Mm,
keep an eye on them as well. And the Bills were believed to be interested, but obviously they signed Von Miller.
mm.
So there's interest out there. Just it really depends on what the Vikings are willing to give up, and you know we will see. I'm very interested, especially since they extended Kirk Cousins. So that to me, that's a sign of okay, we're still going to try and compete here, try
Sure.
and win some stuff, but then we're going to trade Danielle Hunter, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me if you're trying to still win because their defense wasn't good last year, so you need to maybe try and keep the guys that actually were good to try and get a little better. But it's a new regime and they can do whatever they want, I guess. So we will
That's a bold
see.
strategy. Get good players to try to make good things happen. Adam, I
Yeah,
think you may
yeah,
be onto
yeah.
something, but you may be crazy. I'm not quite sure. What does your gut say? Do you think Hunter's a member of the Vikings when the season kicks off in 2022 in September?
I think he's traded.
Mm,
I
okay.
think he
And
is.
do you think
I
you
think
get that return you're asking for, that first either this year or next year? You think you get that return?
at least a second. I would think.
Okay.
I think it's gonna come down to the wire, and I think the Vikings are gonna be like, we're probably not gonna get a new deal done with him, so we might as well see what we can get for him. But I think something's going on that
Hmm.
we don't know about, like bridges being burned or something. Because his injury situation in 2020, the neck injury, it started out. Mike Zimmer referred to it as a tweak, and nobody really thought
Oh,
it was
hell.
that big of a deal. In
Yeah.
training camp, it turned into surgery on like bulging discs and all that stuff. And actually, he was just out for the year, so I'm sure he wasn't too happy with how that was all managed. But I mean, those people are gone now, and it just really it depends. He might just want a fresh start, like a bunch of people. So I think he's traded because why would you fire your GM and then bring back all the same players? That's I'm being they just I'm ranting here on the Jets video here, but they just restructured Adam Thielen's contract. They just
Yeah.
restructured Harrison Smith's contract the other day. They extended Kirk Cousins.
Hmm.
Like, so you're gonna work with the same roster, but you fired the GM who built the roster. Yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense. And there's some belief that there's some other people, some other chefs in the kitchen right now that are kind of holding them back. So that's another podcast that we can save for non-Jets fans.
Will
But
do. And by the way, you're welcome for your new head coach, former Jets quarterback Kevin
oh yeah,
O'Connell, of course, of
yeah,
great Jets fame. He was,
yep,
remember, for folks, the Jets traded for him from the Detroit Lions over there in the NFC North to bring him in. Now, he didn't do anything in the 2 years that was here, but you know what? He's our pride and joy. So we pounded the table for old Kevin O'Connell getting that head coaching gig. So that's great.
yeah.
Before we get you out of here, Adam, is there anything else we missed? I've left this last question in, and I'm glad I have the last couple of interviews here on Tyler Conklin, and the same thing for the others. And they gave some sort of story or anything that we may have missed that Jet fans should know about Tyler Conklin coming in, for Jet fans starving for information on their newest players. Is there anything else we missed?
I think he owns two huskies, so
Oh,
he's a dog
Husky
fan.
guy. Okay.
Yeah, so you know,
I like
he's
that.
he, he's a dog guy if that's anything about him. No, he's a good dude. I think he's a good locker room guy, good for the culture, not going to create a bunch of controversy or anything. And he'll do the dirty work. He'll do whatever. So he's a good one. I would have loved to see him return to the Vikings, but I understand their lack of money. So I'd rather see him go and get some money that he deserves, and make the most of it. So no, the Jets got a good one. And one last question for you:
Go shoot.
Are the Jets still bitter about Anthony Barr?
Oh man, we are, and it's funny because it's funny. We've seen it, throughout this.
Yeah,
Obviously, Randy
yeah,
Gregory,
yep.
J.D. McKissick, who again signs with
Darius Smith.
Buffalo, then comes back to Washington. You had, like I said, Randy Gregory, who signed with the
Yep,
Cowboys and then jumped
yep,
over to Denver. So we've seen it a few
yep.
times, and we've verbalized it
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
Anthony Bard. Oh boy,
Hmm.
don't want to get Anthony Bard. And
Yep.
after those things were happening, we looked at our own free agents, and I tweeted out like, "Oh man, CJ Uzama, Conklin, everybody, hold them tight, buckle
Hmm.
in, lock the doors because we don't want to
Hmm.
get Anthony Bard again." I
Hmm.
still can't believe that happened. That it was the
Hmm.
stomach thing, right? That he wanted to go, and then he just said, "I can't. It just doesn't feel right. Which people have made the jokes about the Jets. It never feels right. Anytime you get that feeling, you got to make sure you avoid them like the Black Plague. So that's a great question, Adam. And yes, it still gets us all the time. We saw he was a free agent this year, and some Jet fans said, it'd be kind of funny if he came back this time. I'm like,
No.
no, thank you. On old Anthony Barr.
Wasn't Greg Williams the defensive coordinator though? Then when
he
they were trying to
was,
sign
and
him?
the whole thing with Anthony Barr was, we're going to change him, make him an edge rusher, and we're going to do these different things with him and line him up in things that he never did before. Like Greg Williams is smarter than the rest of the room, and that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Like you're going to experiment with the guy you're throwing the bag at? Weird.
Yep.
So. Oh boy!
Yeah,
Thanks for the Anthony Barr reminder. I needed one of those, Adam.
And Vikings fans could go on all day about Greg Williams. That relationship has never been good since 2009 when he was the Saints defensive coordinator. We all know what happened.
And there's so much Jets Viking stuff that I just realized. A Kirk Cousins thing, like he used the Jets to get more money into your Vikings and then flipped it back. And then now we see who's on each other's side. We ended up with Sam Darnold that offseason instead of going crazy for Cousins.
LaDainian Tomlinson.
The NFL. What coulda, shoulda, woulda happened. But
LaDainian Tomlinson almost signed with the Vikings.
That's true, right? Remember the tattoo and everything on the calf that he was thinking. And I thought it was cool. I was like, Adrian Peterson, LT, man. Those were the fantasy gods back in the day for all those fantasy football fans. That's 1 and 2 every year. Yeah, there's so much. Jets, Vikings. What could have?
Aaron Henderson. That's
true. There's another one, right? Yeah, he had a little pop with the Jets as well. So again, it remains. So Adam, I'm going to tell you, make sure you let everyone know where people can follow you and find your work, because I imagine there's going to be a lot more Jets Vikings connections in the future that we're going to have to catch up on. Let the fans know.
Yeah, for sure. Always check out thevikingage.com. We try and give you as much information from a different view as possible. We're not a cookie cutter, news organization. So we'll give you maybe some fan perspectives that you're probably looking for. And of course, we've got our own YouTube channel. Check that out on YouTube. Just search the Viking Age podcast, where we broadcast our podcast every week live Monday and Thursday. And then there's the podcast, and then there's, follow us on Twitter at the Viking Age, and follow us on Facebook at the Viking Age. So just check us all out if you're dying to learn about some Vikings stuff. And maybe there's some other Vikings free agents out there. So maybe the Jets will take a look at some of those guys too, and I'll have to come and fill you in on another person. So that's all. Just go check it all out.
All right, appreciate it, Adam. Thanks for taking the time, man.
No problem. Thank you.